What if the rest your soul has been craving isn't found in another scroll, another purchase, or another achievement, but in standing so small in the middle of God's creation that you can't help but look up and whisper, "Lord, you really made all of this?" Imagine beginning in Banff National Park in Canada, where the turquoise waters of Lake Louise and Moraine Lake sit like precious stones held gently in the hands of snow-capped mountains, the air sharp and clean in your lungs, and pine trees standing like a choir of witnesses. As you watch the mountains reflect perfectly on the still surface of the water, you're reminded that the God who formed these towering peaks is more than able to shape and steady the broken pieces of your life, and every breath you take there becomes a quiet prayer of gratitude. Then picture Milford Sound in New Zealand, a place where sheer cliffs rise straight out of dark, deep water and waterfalls pour down in thin white ribbons, where thick clouds and soft mist wrap around the landscape like a blanket. When the sun breaks through and lays a gentle path of light across the water, it feels like God is pulling back a curtain just enough for you to remember that His glory is bigger than your fears, and the echo of waves against the rock sounds like creation's version of "Holy, Holy, Holy." Shift your imagination to Kyoto, Japan, where ancient temples rest in the hills and the Arashiyama bamboo grove stretches high above you, tall green stalks swaying and creaking softly. As you walk slowly along those quiet paths, hearing only the rustle of leaves and the distant ring of temple bells, you're invited into a different kind of worship. One where the stillness itself preaches that God is not only in the thunder and fire, but also in the gentle whisper. And in that hush you can say, "Lord, teach my heart to slow down and hear you again." Travel next to the Swiss Alps, to a valley like Lauterbrunnen, where waterfalls drop from tall cliffs and tiny villages look like they're tucked into God's own palm. Cows graze on bright green hillsides, wildflowers nod in the breeze, and church bells echo off the rock faces as clouds drift lazily across the sky. And standing there you feel both incredibly small and incredibly seen, realizing that the same God who sculpted each ridge and peak also tenderly writes the details of your story, not as an afterthought, but with deep intention and love. From there, let your heart drift to the Maldives, or another quiet island paradise where the sand is warm and soft between your toes, the ocean fades from clear turquoise to rich deep blue, and the only soundtrack is waves rolling in and out like a steady heartbeat. As you stand at the edge of the water watching the sunset spill fire and gold across the horizon, you sense God whispering that He can bring beauty out of endings, that every day you surrender to Him can close in color and hope, and that His creativity didn't stop in Genesis. He's still painting skies just for you to notice. Then travel north in your mind to Iceland, where wide-open skies and rugged landscapes set the stage for one of the most awe-inspiring displays in creation, the Northern Lights. Imagine standing bundled against the cold in a dark field while green and purple lights swirl and dance above you like waves of color. And in that moment, you don't need perfect words or fancy prayers. You just stand there in stunned silence, knowing that the God who commands light in the heavens can certainly bring light into your confusion, your depression, your uncertainty, and that nothing in your life is beyond His ability to transform. Now shift to the whitewashed houses and blue domes of Santorini, Greece, perched on cliffs that overlook the endless Aegean Sea. As the sun slowly sinks and the buildings around you turn shades of rose and gold, you realize that God placed beauty not just in wild nature, but also in the ways people build and live and gather, and the harmony of sea, sky, and village becomes a living reminder that when God is at the center, even the scattered pieces of your life can begin to fit together into something unexpectedly beautiful. From there, Let your imagination step onto the quiet plains of the Serengeti in East Africa, where the horizon stretches so far it almost feels like the earth never ends. You sit or stand in the soft light of sunrise as golden rays touch the tall grasses, silhouettes of giraffes and acacia trees appear against a pastel sky, and you're reminded that God cares for every living creature. You watch elephants move in family herds and birds ride the wind with effortless grace, and you hear Jesus' words echo in your heart. Look at the birds of the air. Your heavenly Father feeds them, and if He cares for them so tenderly, how much more does He care for you? Then travel in your thoughts to Plitvice Lakes National Park in Croatia, where a series of lakes cascade into each other through countless waterfalls, creating terraces of water that shift from deep blue to bright emerald depending on the light. Wooden walkways guide you gently over and alongside the flowing streams, and everywhere you look, water is moving, shimmering, singing its quiet song. And there in the midst of that living mosaic, you're reminded that God's grace is just as constant and just as abundant, always flowing, always renewing, always finding a way through rocky places to bring life where things once felt dry and hopeless. Finally, picture yourself standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon in the United States, the sky open and wide above you, layers of red, orange, and gold rock stretching out in every direction, carved over ages by patient water and time. As the wind brushes your face and you look out across that vast chasm, you can't help but feel the weight of eternity, the reality that your life is a small but intentional part of a much bigger story, and that the God who shaped these stones over centuries is patient enough to work slowly and lovingly in the deep places of your heart too. All of these places, from mountains to oceans, from valleys to deserts, from quiet temples to dancing skies, are like giant love letters from your Creator. Invitations to step away from the noise, put your phone down, unclench your jaw, and let your soul breathe again in the presence of His handiwork. And the truth is, you don't have to wait until you can afford a plane ticket to start honoring His creation. Because even the sunrise on your street, the tree outside your window, the raindrops on your commute, and the night sky above your roof are all daily reminders that God is still speaking through what He has made. So here's your challenge. Don't let another day slip past in a blur of stress and scrolling without lifting your eyes to notice His artwork. Start by thanking God right now for one piece of creation you can see or remember, then share this message with someone who needs a reminder that God is still near and still creative, and take one step. Whether it's a walk in a local park, a quiet moment by a river, or a long-term plan to visit one of these peaceful places, toward turning your travels and your pauses into worship, letting every mile, every view, and every breath become your way of saying, Lord, I see your creation, and I want to know you more through it.